Hey gang, it's Squill, and we've finally done it. We've reviewed each and every Fiona and Cake Season 1 episode, one by one. So let's celebrate by doing it all one more time, but this time in ranking form. Not to be confused with this other video ranking every Fiona and Cake episode. Obviously, that was a ranking of every Fiona and Cake-centric episode of the original series, and this is a ranking of every episode from the first season of the spin-off. In case you couldn't tell, I absolutely loved Fiona and Cake Season 1. It's probably my favorite individual season of Adventure Time. It gave us some incredibly fun alternate universe concepts, made me care more about Fiona and Cake as characters, and most importantly, gave us some much needed closure to Simon as a character as well as his relationship with Betty. And while a part of me is still a little salty that we're getting more Fiona and Cake instead of an entirely new spin-off, based on the quality of Season 1, I still have a ton of faith in the Adventure Time crew that they can pull off a second season. But that's enough stalling. Let's end 2023 on a positive note and rank every episode of Fiona and Cake Season 1. But before that, I want to give a quick disclaimer that these reviews will be on the shorter side, as I've already gone in depth about all of these episodes. So if you want to hear my more elaborated thoughts on these episodes, please check out their individual reviews. At number 10, we have Cake the Cat. Look, something had to be at the bottom here, so I chose Cake's episode. Cake the Cat is still a good episode, it just feels the most disposable. Like, it's definitely fun seeing Cake interact with the squirrel from up a tree. I'm glad Cake even has her own solo episode in general. Her Rebecca Sugar musical number is excellent. I guess it's just that, out of every episode in this season, this is the one that you could most easily remove without really changing much. Yeah, it helps establish Cake's arc throughout the season and her growing resentment towards Fiona, but it feels like that could have been done in other ways. And while Cake's story here is definitely enjoyable, it does sort of drag on a bit near the second half. Hell, my favorite scene in the episode doesn't even involve Cake at all. But ultimately, this being the worst episode of Season 1 says a lot more about the season as a whole than this episode individually. It is the weakest out of an incredibly strong bunch. At number 9, we have Casper and Nova. Casper Nova has an incredibly strong first half, but its second half is good, but not great. I love the opening to this episode with the nightmarish version of Fiona World. There's some awesome unsettling imagery here. This scene with the Lich is also fantastic, showing us a brand new side to him while not sacrificing what his character is supposed to be. And the episode peaks with Simon giving an absolutely gut-wrenching speech in which he apologizes to Betty for wasting her wish. But unfortunately, the rest of the episode just isn't as strong. The Ooh 1000 Plus stuff is fun in a vacuum, but feels out of place as a part of Simon's story. And while it's great to see Fiona and Cake meet back up with Gary, Marshall, and Hunter, these scarab bugs make for a pretty weak threat. Don't get me wrong, the second half of this episode is still very enjoyable. It just doesn't quite live up to its first half, in my opinion. At number 8, we have Fiona Campbell. Fiona Campbell makes for a very solid reintroduction to Fiona as a character, as well as the world she lives in. Most of the episode consists of Fiona running back and forth between characters, which gives us a sense of what the average day in her life is like. The episode does a great job characterizing Fiona as someone who's gotten bored of her mundane adult life. She went from just a girl version of Finn to one of the most relatable characters Adventure Time has ever created. It's also a lot of fun getting to see the human versions of a bunch of iconic Adventure Time characters. But ultimately, while Fiona Campbell works really well as an introduction, as an actual episode, there's not a ton that stands out about it compared to the rest of the season. There's nothing I particularly dislike about it, everything it does very well. It's just that what it does isn't really as memorable as most of the episodes following it. Oh, besides that intro sequence, that was stuck in my head for the longest time. At number 7, we have Cheers. Cheers was the hardest episode here for me to rank. It ranged from number 10 on the list all the way to number 6. Ultimately, while it is the episode that I have the most amount of issues with, its highs are just too damn high for me to put it lower than the last 3 episodes. Everything that has to do with Simon and Betty in this episode is perfect. Their scene at the bus stop still hits me in the feels. It's so good. This episode ends Simon's arc beautifully, giving him the closure he needed and helping him find his sense of self-worth, while acknowledging that he'll still need to work on himself if he wants to continue on the good path he's already on. And the Fiona world stuff is great too. Seeing Fiona finally stand up for the world she's grown to appreciate is very powerful. The show has done a great job at making us care about Fiona world, so we want to see her save it. I'll still never understand why they did what they did with Jay and Little Destiny here. I think it's one of the dumbest things ever. And the episode as a whole kinda loses me a bit near the end. But the episode still gets a lot more right than it gets wrong, and what it gets right, it gets really right. So I can safely call it a great finale. At number 6, we have Destiny. You know what I like about Destiny? Farm World Finn. I love this rugged, settled down version of Finn. Not only is he a great contrast to our Finn, but he's a great contrast to Simon. One longs for the days in which his life used to be magic, and the other can't even stand thinking about it. It does a great job showing how different people respond to trauma. It's also a lot of fun seeing this post-apocalyptic version of Farm World. How the world has changed since the events of Season 7's crossover. Big Destiny is definitely the comedic highlight of the episode. Such an underrated character. I guess the one thing holding this one back for me is that I don't really care that much for Jay and Little Destiny. Their Romeo and Juliet-esque love story is definitely cute, but nothing about it really grabs me. I'm mostly watching this one for Farm World Finn, but even still, if you were a fan of the Farm World saga in the original series, then I highly recommend checking this one out. At number 5, we have Prisma the Wishmaster. Prisma the Wishmaster is basically just one big lore and cameo fest. And it's awesome. Amidst all the exposition dump, I think what makes this one so much fun are the character interactions. Seeing Prismo in a state of depression after losing Jake, Fiona and Kate going from being excited about their old magical lives to questioning whether or not they're even real. But Simon is easily the highlight of the episode. Him drinking the whole episode and acting like a bratty child is hysterical. That look on his face after seeing Betty again hits me every time. This is a visually gorgeous episode as well. Love these detailed backgrounds. And yeah, a lot of this episode is still just exposition and cameos. But those are just the icing on the cake that is the rest of this episode. Prisma the Wishmaster is an excellent character-focused episode that doubles as a great transition into the multiverse-hopping journey. At number 4, we have The Winter King. I love the visuals in The Winter King. Even discounting the musical number, it's easily the most visually gorgeous looking episode in the entire Adventure Time franchise. For the lack of a better term, this episode is just pure eye candy. But visuals alone don't carry this episode, as it also gives us two of the best alternate universe characters in the entire series. A version of Simon who managed to overcome the crown is such a cool concept for a character, and the episode contrasts him against our Simon beautifully. While our Simon became obsessed with getting Betty back, this Simon forgot about her completely. But the real highlight of the episode is the Candy Queen. Giving PB the insanity of the Ice King makes for one of the best one-off characters in all of Adventure Time. I really can't get enough of her. My only complaint is that she doesn't appear more throughout the episode. And on top of all that, the Gary and Marshall subplot is one of the most wholesome things ever. The Winter King is a fan favorite episode for a reason. Love this thing from start to finish. At number 3, we have The Star. I think what I like about The Star is its sense of atmosphere. There's a very bleak and cold feeling to this world, emphasized by the number of on-screen deaths we see. Even the considerably lighter Gary and Marshall subplot is still filled to the brim with gothic imagery. But the star herself is easily what makes the episode. I just love this flamboyantly evil version of Marceline so much. Such a great callback to her trickstery persona in the earlier seasons. It's also just a great reflection of how important Simon was to Ew. Him being such a good and loving father to Marceline basically saved the entire world. But I also don't want to overlook just how great Bonnie is here too. I really love this militarized persona for her, it fits so well. I like that the episode keeps things pretty open-ended as to what the relationship was like between the Star and Bonnie. The Gary and Marshall subplot isn't quite as good here as the one in The Winter King, but still a lot of fun. The Star is easily one of the most memorable episodes of the season, and a great one to watch around Halloween time. At number 2, we have Simon Petrov. Simon Petrov acts as a reintroduction to, well, Simon Petrov, and gives us a look at what his life has been like since the events of Come Along With Me. The episode mirrors Fiona Campbell beautifully, showcasing a day in the life of someone who's become jaded and detached from the world around them. The episode does a great job establishing Simon's internal conflict, his feelings of being out of place in a magical world, and his desire to go back to being magic. He longs for the days in which he was once needed, romanticizing his past as the Ice King. And also, Finn is in this episode. I love the Finn and Simon dynamic here. It's adorable how much Finn really wants to help Simon out. Finn is very clearly still grieving the loss of Jake at this point, and isn't in the correct mental state in order to help Simon. But seeing him try his hardest anyways is so damn wholesome. Simon Petrov isn't some big, flashy, universe-hopping story like the episodes following it. It's just a simple character-driven story that helps establish where Simon is at this point in his life. And it's these types of stories that Adventure Time excels at. And my favorite Fiona and Cake episode is Jerry. Wow, what a shocker, am I right? But really, there's no surprise here. Jerry is everything I love about not just Fiona and Cake, but Adventure Time as a whole in one big, beautiful package. It has a crazy alternate universe concept, giving us a version of Ooh where all life is destroyed. It has easily one of the best Lich appearances, giving him such a sick design. It has great comedy with BMO. It has some incredibly strong character interactions between Simon and Fiona, giving them an almost parent and child dynamic similar to Simon and Marcy. It has not only my new favorite song in Adventure Time, but one of my new favorite Adventure Time scenes period in the form of Everything in You. And most importantly, it gave us an absolutely beautiful love story between Simon and Betty. It is the exact Simon and Betty backstory that we needed, giving us some much needed context as to why the two became so obsessed with getting the other back. And it's not a clean and pretty love story either, it's complicated and a little messy as Simon and Betty are both very flawed people. But at the end of the day, it's clear that they both loved each other more than anything else in the world. Jerry is not just my favorite Fiona and Cake episode. Behind I Remember You, it is my second favorite episode within the entire Adventure Time franchise. It's that good. The other 9 episodes of Fiona and Cake could be absolute garbage, and I'd still say the spin-off was worth it just for Jerry alone. It's basically perfect. And that puts a wrap on the Fiona and Cake videos, at least until Season 2. For as much fun as I had talking about Fiona and Cake, I'm definitely excited to go back to the original series, as well as maybe do some non-Adventure Time related videos again. Thanks to anyone who supported me throughout 2023, y'all are the best. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, and I'll see you all in 2024. Squill out.